Nerdiest Prime.
Hi, and welcome to Nerdiest Prime, where we are reviewing every episode of Star Trek Lower Decks, and this is episode 6. It's Parth Ferengi, Heart Place. Let's start with our first impressions. Let's start with Jenny.
Well, this was a great episode. We got to see Ferenginar for the first time in like 30 years. We got callbacks to Deep Space Nine. We got a much deeper look at the Ferengi homeworld and the culture. We got some awkward interactions between crew members. We got some awesome Starfleet people figuring stuff out and being great. And yeah, it was super. I loved it.
I also love this one. This is probably my favorite episode now since the Voyager Museum episode.
Ooh.
So I loved everything about this one. I laughed a lot. There was so much going on, so many little visual references. I think this is probably like the funniest one so far this season. There was just, it's going to be hard to remember everything because there was so much. I was even going to watch it again, but I didn't. But yeah, I had a great time watching this one. So, love seeing Ferenginar. Always a good time.
Yeah, I thought it was great. I really loved it. I was kind of disappointed with the last episode. So for me, this was great because it was kind of refreshing. It felt like real classic Lower Decks. It had like 4 storylines. The fifth one, if we include like the bookend, and everything felt really fleshed out despite that. Some really great character development. All the jokes really landed. Rom was in it, and I love him as a character. Although I didn't realize that he becomes a Grand Nagus because I'm still working my way through
Spoiler alert.
Deep Space Nine.
Spoilers.
Yeah. So I was like, oh, that's interesting.
Yeah.
But, it was good. It was so much fun.
I love this episode. I thought this was amazing. I finished the episode. I was like, I think this might be the best episode of Lower Decks ever. It's maybe a 10. I'm not sure, but it's so good. And I'm just a really big sucker for any romantic intrigue. And one of my favorite episodes of Deep Space Nine is looking for Parmok in all the wrong places. And this was kind of that sort of same type of episode. So I loved it. Okay, let's talk about the plot. This episode, as Namir mentioned, has 4 different plots. It's got the Ferenginar Treaty plot, the Rutherford Tendi romance plot, the Beckett Mariner wondering why she's still angry, and finally the mystery ship plot. So let's go one at a time, and let's talk about the Ferenginar. First, it's our return to Ferenginar. And
you missed one. You missed a plot.
What's the plot? What's the one I missed?
Boimler watching Ferengi TV.
And that one.
Landlord cops.
That was actually my favorite part. Well, almost my favorite part of the episode, because I really, obviously, seeing Rom and Lita was wonderful. I really liked the setup of I mean, even just thinking about like Ferenginar joining the Federation is a cool idea, especially at this point in the timeline. And I just thought that it was a nice setup, especially for Freeman to be the one like actually with the knowledge and the actual like knowing how to deal with the situation, because we haven't always seen her like really nailing it. So that was a nice kind of I liked seeing that quite a bit.
This was it was nice that Lower Decks is having like a major event in Star Trek. So like Ferenginar joining the Federation was a big important event, and it was great to see Rom and Lita again. It's nice to see he's still like the lovable goofball from Deep Space Nine. He's still a bit of a simpleton, but he's
was he a simpleton, or was he pretending to be a simpleton?
Yeah.
I think he was
hard
pretending.
to say because his obsession with baseball seems so foolish. Like he was,
Like he definitely really likes baseball, but
yeah.
he definitely
I
that
think,
was they were running a con.
yeah. He's always been a well. He's not like Lita said. He's not a very shrewd businessman, but
Hmm.
he has his strengths. Obviously, being mechanically inclined and being a progressive thinker. Um, but yeah, he's still a little goofy, a little simple. Um, but yeah, it was great to see them, and I love the visit to Ferengi was great. It's funny, the Cerritos is always been described as like a very unimportant ship, but it seems like they're on hand for like a lot of important things. Like it was nice to see Freeman. She got a win out of this, and
Hmm.
it'll up their status amongst the Starfleet.
Yeah, I like the storyline. I thought it was a lot of fun. As I mentioned before, I like Rom as a character. I think he's fun and funny, but I like characters that come across as one way, but are actually totally different. Like they have a lot more
Hmm.
depth. And Rom to me is that, right? Like he's not, as Alan was saying, he's not business minded, but he's like an engineering genius, which is great. So I kind of wish I didn't know that he was going to become the Grand Nagus. But whatever. That's okay.
That's what
Something to look
happens when
forward
you
to.
watch a show like 30 years after it's aired.
I know, I know. I mean, I wish they would just have listened to me and not put that in there. Maybe had somebody else, but whatever.
Yeah,
And they, I've always liked Freeman's character. I think she's a super
Hmm.
competent captain, and that comes across. Um, but I just going off what Alan was saying. They don't, the Cerritos doesn't really do any more second contact type episodes, right? Like they don't
Hmm.
really, which I thought was a lot of fun when they kind of come in afterwards, after first contact, and did all like the grunt work. I thought that was such a funny idea, but they don't really do that too often. So it does seem like they're, you know, a major part
important.
of the, yeah, it seems like they're important.
Hmm.
Yeah, exactly. And that's kind
Well,
of not the
and that's
point,
kind of
right?
like what I was saying last week was that they have the premise, which is to be comedy and to be like the lower decks of the shittiest ship in the fleet, but then they kind of run out of space dramatically and they start having to expand out of their original premise, which can be
Hmm.
good, but can also just start being like, well, now it's just like all the other shows. It's not really like the show was supposed to
But
be. But tell me.
but I mean, we had the Cerritos, but everything that happened on the Toronto, by the way. Which yeah, so it was like the Cerritos was there, but Freeman was just kind of like saying playing second banana to the Admiral. Um, and it was his ship that was the like where the
Oh
actual
yeah,
treaty
yeah,
was being
yeah.
signed, right?
There you
Yeah,
go,
that's
Jenny,
true.
being right again,
Just saying. Just
being
saying.
observant, and I just realized that there was the Toronto this episode, there was the Vancouver and another episode, and
Hmm.
I was just looking up Titmouse today, who are the animation studio that do Lower Decks, and they
Yeah.
have an office in New York, they have an office in LA, and they have an office in Vancouver. So
Yeah.
that's probably where that's coming from.
Yeah. Well, they film in Toronto. Wait, no,
Yeah.
they don't. Why am I saying that? They don't film in Toronto. It's a
That
cartoon.
would be amazing.
See, I'm not always right.
It was
I
actually
thought,
live
well,
action.
but yeah, I totally was going to go with it, but then you just outed yourself. You're like, wait a minute, that's totally crazy
No,
what I just
no,
said. I'm like,
yeah,
oh,
yeah.
I was going to go with that. So yeah, I think Rom is an interesting character because I think when they first conceived of him, he was like the Ferengi pit boss in Deep Space Nine. I think he didn't have a character, and they started
Hmm.
like, okay, he'll be like the dumb younger brother / waiter. And then after like a few years, they kind of ran out of room with that. And then they're like, no, wait a minute, he's a genius. He really is actually smart. Which I don't think was in the original character, but it's like they developed it. They just said, well, what are we going to do with this character? It's
Hmm.
getting boring doing the dumb young brother shtick. But it was funny because when he was dumb at the beginning of this episode, I was like, wait a minute, isn't Rom smart actually? Like,
Yeah.
what's going on? Why are they playing? Why is Rom being dumb Rom? And then I was like, oh, they're doing a swindle.
Hmm.
So I like that. That was the kind of the least favorite of the part of the episode. It was fine, but it wasn't like the most exciting part. What was really exciting was the B story. That really kind of was like the A story, which is the Rutherford Tendi romance. I'm so excited.
That's
But
so
I
funny.
I think that was the A story. I think that was that felt to me like the most important story in the episode.
It was bigger, I think. Yeah.
Yeah, and you know, like it was kind of core to their relationship, and it was done really, really well. So for me, that felt like the story of the episode. Like it was like they were all visiting Ferenginor, Ferenginor,
Ferenginar.
Ferenginar.
Ferenginar,
Nar.
Ferenginar, Gar. But it was still kind of anchored by their story. Like that was the main relationship. So I think I would call that the A story, and it was done so well.
Yeah, like it was funny because in the last couple episodes, I see their interaction, and I'm like, are these guys in love? Because they're really into each other. But it wasn't until this episode where they were doing the same shtick at the beginning of the episode. Like, you're my best friend. No, you're my best friend. I'm like, what's going on with those two? Something's going on. And then it just, the whole thing, then they decided to like pretend to be married and go down the planet. I was like, oh, I see where this is going. This is going to be delicious. Let me get some popcorn. What do you guys think? What do you guys think of B-plot? Rutherford and Tendi.
I like them for them. You know, like I think they're so perfect for each other. I really wish they would just, but I don't want them to like get together too quickly, because otherwise you
don't want them to pull a Spock in Chapel where it's like it was too fast and then it was done before you even knew it.
Exactly.
Bullshit.
There is totally. Yeah, exactly. Like that's what makes the relationship work, right? It's that will they, won't they kind of thing, which I usually hate, but for some reason I don't here. I don't really understand why. I think it's because they're cartoons. I have no idea.
because you said you think of yourselves as Rutherford, so then Tendi's obviously Jen, not Jenny, but Jen, your wife.
Oh, I guess so. Yeah, she is kind of like weirdly.
That was close.
Yeah, that was. I was like,
sorry,
okay, I have to
what?
save this comment. Okay, well, that was super awkward. Why don't you just move on to Alan?
Yeah, it's hard to get my train of thought on the rails here. Hashtag Tendiford.
Nice.
Are we gonna ship them and give them a name like Benifer? Yeah, they're so cute. And I'm rooting for them to actually like make it official, but it seems like they're both so socially awkward that it's like I don't know if they can like they dance around it and they're like but yeah, it was they were super cute, super awkward, but it was like they were meant for each other, and I'm glad you see this character growth. So yeah, it was nice among we had this fun visit to Ferenginar, but again at the core of this episode there was still so many good character stories happening, and yeah, it's great.
So it's actually really funny because number one, I'm all about like will they or won't they. I love them. But I don't want them to. I don't know why. I'm like, no, don't, no. So like I don't like honestly, and I mean like that is not my thing. My thing is like it normally is my thing. Anyway, yeah, so I'm like, yeah, by the end of the episode when they were like all snuggled up again, but like again platonic, I was like there. Yes, so I don't know why. It's really like.
But what I loved about this episode is how they just kept taking it up a notch. Where it was like, haha, like you see it coming a mile away. They're like, we'll pretend to be married. It'll be so funny. And you're like, this is not going to go well. And then you can tell they start having feelings for each other. And then when they come out all dressed up and he's like, what does he say? Not you're breathtaking, but he says, you're captivating?
You're captivating.
Captivating. Mm-hmm. He's like, oh, I wish I didn't depict such a good word there. And she's like, me too. And then they're like, it'll be fine. and then they go to the restaurant, and then at the restaurant they're like, yeah, we'll just come clean, and they're like, oh, if you pretend to like you weren't romantic to get the discount, you go to prison for life or something. It's like ridiculous. It's like the worst nightmare version of what could happen in that situation. Like it doesn't make any sense. And then they're like, and now you must talk about your feelings, and you have like a lie detector, and it's just they kept upping it up, and they're like passing it like, and now you have to have sex in front of everybody. And I was like, oh my god, where is this gonna end?
Like that's the thing. I actually like I loved how they did it. I just for some reason I'm like I don't want the end game of it. Oddly enough, but that's just But in terms of how they played it in the episode, I thought it was great. The whole thing with like Dr. Migley-Moo, I really quite enjoyed a lot.
That was confusing.
I really liked Dr. Migley-Moo.
I think he was confused. He's like,
I know.
what am I being drug into here?
And
He's like, you love me? Oh, thank you.
And they were like trying to tell him the specials or whatever, and he's like, well, you don't have to you don't have to puke in my
Oh, yeah.
I died.
But I get it. Like, yeah, but I understand that because it's fun to kind of put them in these situations, and that ends once they get together.
It just
right? Like
it just becomes something. Yeah,
but it's totally different.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So I think maybe that's like last season, last couple of episodes kind of territory.
Oh, I'm just saying, I'm rooting for those two crazy kids.
That's nice.
That's sweet of you.
Yeah.
It's
weird. Like I feel like when we talk about them, we talk about them like they're real people, like they're actual actors, but they're just cartoons. Like it's just animation, but it's just so bizarre because they're such well realized characters that it doesn't feel that way, right? Like they feel like real people.
And I feel like Rutherford and Tendi feel more like real people than Beckett and Boimler.
That's cool.
I'm just gonna have a drink and think about that for a second. That's not coffee.
Well,
That's whiskey.
Yes. I mean, I have things to say, but it's fine.
What? This is now your chance. This is the whole point of the show is for you to say stuff.
So I think it's because for some people define a lot of their lives based on relationships, right? So when people are in relationships, they're a little bit more, as you said, relatable, right? So Beckett and Boimler, Mariner and Boimler haven't really been in that situation. They've just been, they've just been Starfleet officers getting into shenanigans, doing cool things, where Tendi and Rutherford are actually in a human or relationship with each other. Right, which is very endearing, and right, and you just kind of feel like, oh yeah, I can totally relate to them now, right? Because we've all kind of gone through something, like that. Whereas we haven't seen that with Beckett and Boimler yet. Although I think Mariner was in a relationship last season. Right? Yeah,
Jennifer.
Yeah, exactly. So there is a little bit of that, but it's not with one of the main characters. Yeah, well, because it wasn't that important.
Was she the Andorian? Was she the Andorian?
Yeah.
Okay, yeah.
Jennifer the Andorian, yeah.
Oh, because I think
another Jennifer.
Oh yeah. No, but I remember, wasn't there a joke about that in the first episode? They're like, "There's not even a Jennifer on the ship," and then there's a Jennifer who goes, "Yes, there is," and then she ends up being her girlfriend like 3 seasons later.
Oh yeah.
Anyways, how do we feel about the Beckett C story? Which is her like realizing like that she's still acting the way she's always acted, and she's angry, but she doesn't really know why anymore, and nobody else does.
They're trying to push her into a more mature role, more responsibility, like some growth, and she's resistant to it. She just it's hard for her to. God, I don't know what I'm saying.
No, you had it. I was like, I was with you.
No, I think I feel this way sometimes too, where you're such a misanthrope throughout your life that when things start going good for you, you don't have nothing to complain about anymore, and you feel like kind of a little lost. So I actually kind of related to that. When things are going good, it's hard to find anything. When you define yourself as being anti rules and anti establishment or whatever, and against the man, and when you finally find yourself in a good place in your life, and then you're like, oh, I don't know what to do now. I So yeah, it was kind of interesting to see her just kind of lashing out because she doesn't know how to be comfortable
Mhm.
in a good spot in her life. So yeah,
Yeah.
I thought it was quite an interesting. It's a good arc for her. It's an interesting storyline. I
There
have
you
nothing
go. Now
funny
you
to
got
say
it.
about it, but
That was great.
I mean, I think the only thing that I would add to that would be that I think this has kind of been her arc for
Mm.
most of the seasons, right? Like she's always kind of been struggling up against that, and it was starting to get a little bit old. So it's nice to see that there's going to be some progression, right? It's nice to see that she's going to develop as a character. I think
Mm.
this season.
Like it's being addressed more directly now. It's not just, yeah.
Yeah, exactly.
Mm.
Like it's obvious that this is an issue for her, and
Hmm.
that she needs to resolve it, right? Like they've got an entire storyline devoted just to that, and that she's kind of gone too far, and she often does that. But I think it's clear that she's starting to realize that she needs to change,
Yeah.
which is good. That's
Yeah.
cool. That's character development.
yes, you love character development.
I do. I love it.
Yeah.
Well, and so we have the last storyline, not counting the mystery ship, is Boimler getting stuck
Hmm.
in his hotel room, basically addicted to TV shows. I mean, I like the whole Ferenginar thing because, over the years they've talked, in the behind the scene interviews, they talk about, well, Ferengi actually means human, and in I think in Persian or something, and Ferengis are actually just supposed to be us. They're just like a version of us, and if we were in the Star Trek world, that's how we would be behaving. And so they kind of do the same thing and take it to the extreme. And when Boimler gets stuck in the in his hotel room, he's like us, being like, I'm not gonna watch TikTok. I'm not gonna go on Instagram. And then 3 hours later, you're still there, and you're like, oh, again.
Yeah.
So how did we feel about the Boimler stuff? Oh, I feel like Jenny was about to say something.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, it's like it really took me back to the like the first time I remember really binging something, like I had the DVDs of Alias, and I watched like the whole first season in 2 days, and it was like my brain was just like, and I just like it was really cool seeing a 24th century person, like, kind of reverting like that. Like it was, and it was also just, it was really fun seeing what the Ferengi TV was, because it is so much like the garbage that we have. Like, like, it
It
was
was a
great
lot of
because,
garbage.
I mean, because how many minutes was that whole part of the show? Was, maybe 5 minutes, maybe. But I really enjoyed it. It was great. And then was it in that scene at the end of it when the security guys, no, which was the security guy that had the whip?
Oh,
Yeah,
that was
it was
it at
Adam
the very
McGuire.
end.
That was
Yeah.
awesome.
For
That
send
was
the
great.
authority.
Yeah.
Great.
Yeah.
And I like how Ransom was like, he's like, the security men are at the door. Don't resist. Ah!
No, he's like, go limp. And he's like,
Yeah,
I
that
like
was
him.
wonderful. I love
No,
that.
he had like Starfleet issue tidy whities too, with like the little delta. On.
Mhm.
It's funny.
That's
So
great.
yeah, but Ferengi TV was awesome. Yeah, it was
Hmm.
funny too that he became so obsessed with it because they're in the 24th century, and I'm like, you can just go in the holodeck and live out a TV show. You know, you could be part of it, but he's just sitting there watching a screen. I'm like,
But that's different,
maybe,
right?
yeah, I
Like,
guess it's like a quaint thing. Like,
But it's
oh,
more.
I
It's
could just
almost
sit
more
here.
addictive if it's a screen because it's like you don't have to interact with them, and it just becomes this passive
passive.
thing. I think
Yeah.
that's the trap of it. That you just
Hmm.
Yeah,
like you get plugged into the drama. But
and
I just
Landlord
loved how
talks.
on the nose the
Landlord.
commercials were.
Yeah. Oh my God.
I like when
Well,
Parting is shot too, and he's like, you have to sign over all your assets to me. I was like, it's such a Ferengi
Mhm.
thing to do. It's like my friend's dying. It's like, please sign over all your stuff to me.
And then he's like, "Drink Sluggo."
There's commercials in this. I like how he's learning about product placement too.
Mhm.
Yeah,
Yeah.
that was great.
but I loved it how on the nose the stuff was like the commercial
Mhm.
where it was like there was a big buff guy and then there's like a little scrawny kid that drinks the sluggo and then the girl in the bikini just kicks the big guy into the pool. And you're like, oh, that's like every commercial on TV, but just
Yeah.
Yeah,
like the honest version of a
Mhm.
commercial.
yeah. He drinks a Sluggo, and then his ears get larger. It's
Yes.
like,
Yeah.
and then we're like, 100% guaranteed to work.
Yeah. Yeah. That was
It was
amazing.
good. It was hilarious. Like I really felt like that is like if aliens came to Earth and they were watching our TV, that's what it would be like,
Yeah.
right?
Mhm.
They would have the exact same reaction as Boimler.
Yeah.
What
Absolutely.
Well, it just made me think of when in Voyager Futures End, when they go back to 1996, and then
Mhm.
Kess and sorry, Kess and
Are you having a hard time coming up with Neelix?
Neelix?
yeah, yes.
Wow. They become obsessed with soap operas?
Yeah.
Oh.
Yeah. I'll finish your thought for you there.
One day, Namir, you will watch that episode and you will enjoy it too.
That is so far in the future. I mean,
I don't think so. I think you're coming along at a good clip. I think you're only
Mhm.
like a month away
I don't think so.
at the rate you're going.
That's true.
Okay, let's talk about. I want to talk about anything you guys noticed on the Ferengi planet, like that you really liked that was going on because there was all sorts of stuff going on.
The fact that their library is just a casino and no book has ever been read.
Yeah.
That was my favorite part.
It's like books, 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 books. There's like not a book in sight inside.
And there was what was it the haggling palace where you can gamble, the gambling palace where you can haggle.
Yeah. Yeah. And what was it like?
And I love
Quarks, House
the
of
start
Youth gambling, or like?
Oh, but there was
Oh my God!
quarks.
And
Yes.
there's like the
Yes.
Guardian of Forever's in the back.
Mhm.
It has like all sorts of different like Starfleet
Yeah, that was amazing. And
discoveries.
and the Ferengi with the Vulcan
Like,
like
hey, look,
ears
they're
on
wearing
him,
the
but
velour suits to catch
yeah,
fire.
amazing. That was
So good.
amazing.
Oh, there's so many good jokes. Little.
Hmm.
I was gonna say my favorite visual gag was Mariner having the Ferengi beer hat. Because you're like, what
Oh
is
my
she wearing?
God.
And she's like,
Yeah.
oh, it's a fake Ferengi head.
Mhm.
Well, it's like in the Starfleet or the Starfleet restaurant, like there was like Ferengi with like Klingon hat. Like,
Yes.
But
Oh
I love
man.
that.
Yeah.
And
oh, so good.
wasn't the Starfleet restaurant Quarks? Wasn't that Quarks?
It was
Oh yeah, Quark
Quarks Federation
Starfleet.
experience. Yeah.
Yeah,
Oh,
so
Yeah.
it's basically I think a riff on the Star Trek experience
Yeah.
in L.A.
but
or
they
Las
were
Vegas.
playing
Yeah.
the Next Generation theme in the background. It was amazing.
I know, it was awesome. That was so cool. It was really neat. I liked seeing like because we'd seen like Quark's house and the treasury, the like the commerce building. So getting to see
Yeah, like
kind of
the
a nice swath
outage
of
and
the rest of it, it like filled it out, like now Ferenginar doesn't seem, in my head, it doesn't feel like a swamp, and I mean it is a swamp obviously, but like it doesn't feel like houses in a bog and a big building. Like now it feels like, yeah, a place
Oh
where
man,
stuff happens.
that made me laugh out loud too when they disembark from the shuttle and the mariner's like, it's like, hey, it's like heaven here if God was stupid.
Yeah.
Okay, do you guys want to say anything else or talk about anything else before I get to the ratings?
One
The
thing I
mystery
do.
ship.
Oh yeah, right. Oh yeah.
Mm.
Yeah, the mystery ship.
The mystery ship that the plot that never goes anywhere.
What are you
Oh, we got a
talking
little
about?
bit.
I
little bit
feel like
more
it did. I
information.
feel like it did. I feel like
Yeah, tell me
Yeah,
how did
yeah.
it move forward? Because they killed Ferengi this time, as opposed to Vulcans
No.
and Klingons.
No,
What else?
I think it is Ferengi related now. From
Yeah,
what
because
that one crew member said.
yeah,
He
What did
was
he say?
like perfect timing
He
because
knew it was
he was
coming.
Yeah, he was complaining that they've got out of arms ROM. They've got out of arms merchants, and they're not making any money now, and they got to throw away all these guns and weapons and things. And then he's like, and then when the ship arrives, that guy was like, "Oh, perfect, right on time." Like, so it's obviously like maybe this is a plot by the Ferengi to
Start war?
start a war. Yeah, I guess
Yeah.
and drive the arms market again, so that they can make the profit.
Mm.
I feel like that was kind of implied there. And I'm interested now to see if it's just a Ferengi scheme to drive the sale of weapons.
Mm-hmm.
No,
Okay, it's not as exciting as Vija's child.
yeah. I don't.
oh,
I
it
think
makes more sense though.
it's but I think it's gonna be like a race that we haven't seen before. Like I think it's gonna be something brand new. And
No,
I
because
think
now that
were
they.
just.
Sorry, no, go on.
I was just gonna say I think they were just taking advantage of whoever that Ferengi trader was, and I think he survives. I bet that they shoot him out the airlock or transport him into space before it gets blown up.
Because somebody has to have some information eventually.
Mm-hmm.
Like there
Exactly. It's
has
got
to
to go
be, yeah.
somewhere.
I feel like that was too obvious. Like why would he say that if it's not something that he knew about in advance?
Yeah,
Well, I think he did. I
definitely.
think he did.
Yeah.
I think but he was coordinating with whoever this race is, thinking that they were going to buy his, Genesis torpedo, but really they were coming to, destroy them.
Okay, let's talk about our ratings. Let's start with Lemire. What do you think of this episode, Lemire?
Yeah, I really loved the episode. I thought it was so good. I think I'm going to give it a 9 because it's the best episode so far, and I think my range has been 6 to 8, so this is better than the other one. So it's logically it's a 9.
Yeah, I'm the same. I had a really great time with this one. All the jokes were great. The visual gags were great. I'm probably going to watch this one again because it was so dense. I would also give this a 9 out of 10. High mark.
Oh, I wonder what Jenny's gonna give it. What's your rating, Jenny?
It's funny because as I was watching, because I really enjoyed it. There was a lot of great stuff in it. We've talked about a lot of great stuff, but I still feel like it's a really solid 8. But I think that's also because of the Tendi and Rutherford thing. I'm like, don't do it.
I'm confused.
So hey, I know it's crazy. And I'm tempted to even go up to a 9 because did you guys see the rain effect that they made on the windshield of the shuttle? That was, I'm giving it a 9 just because that put it over.
Oh,
Yeah.
That was
good.
stunning. Yeah. Like that was amazing. So there.
Yeah, I was worried there for a second. I was like, is Jenny gonna score something lower than Alan and me? Oh my God, what happened?
Wait.
Where am I? What universe is this?
I know.
I love this episode. Like I said at the beginning, I thought it was like by the middle episode, I was almost like, this is my favorite episode of Lower Decks. But then I think maybe because they pulled a U-turn on the Tendi Rutherford thing, or something happened at the end that I was just didn't make it quite a 10, but it's a solid 9. And I loved seeing Rom and Lita again. I love going back to Ferenginar. And I feel like this episode actually gave, what's the expression? Gave justice, brought justice, made justice. What's the expression?
Did justice.
I don't think it's
Did
justice.
It did justice.
I don't know if that's an expression. That's just words put in the right order.
I think this episode did justice to the Ferengi and Ferenginar more than we had seen in Deep Space Nine. Like Deep Space Nine, you saw a little bit of the planet, but this was like full on Ferengi mode with all the Ferengi culture, and it was like better than I really ever would have hoped it could have been. And it was so. Anyways, I love this episode so much, and I'm totally invested in the Rutherford Tendi romance, and I want to see what happens next. And I'd watch their own little spin-off series after the show's done. I'm really looking for it.
I also love when Rob signs the Federation charter. It looks like a child wrote his name.
Yeah.
I was almost waiting for a backwards R.
Yeah.
Maybe he's just talking in Ferengi. Maybe he's just writing in Ferengi.
I don't know, those are
that's
English words. They're English letters.
Or
Arabic,
or letters.
whatever you want to call it. Our alphabet.
It's not Arabic.
What is our alphabet?
Yeah, what is our alphabet?
It's like, I don't know. It's not Arabic.
No.
It's not Cyrillic. That's Russian.
It's Latin based.
No, like the letters of our alphabet. Like, what is that called?
Cut all this out because everybody's gonna think we're idiots. So now we don't know.
Aramaic?
Just where in the future the things we've done and said. Let's just push the button, we be